Oh, g'day. Excuse me just a moment. Just turning off the flight recorder. You catch me at the end of my 18th post-solo FPV flight, and things have gone quite well. It's a little breezier than it has been for the past few days, but alright. It wasn't perfect, but we've done no damage. The whole point of the training is to equip myself to fly in a wide range of weather conditions on a variety of fields. I want to step back almost a year to 3 flights when things didn't go quite so well. Well, here we are, back in the shade of Birdman Pete's avocado tree, and you might be surprised, I've actually found an avocado now. I didn't think there was an avocado on this tree this summer, but that could be good eating in a while. Now there is, I think this is the aircraft that you just saw flying through those 3 disastrous flights, but let's cut out the rubbish. This is Birdman Pete's Big Brother judging. What did you make of the performance of the last contestant? Yeah, it's the door for that one. But you have to ask the question, how much actual buddy box flying had he done? And was it the buddy box flying FPV buddy box flying, or was it line of sight buddy box flying? Because he certainly hasn't got his head around the special problems of FPV. And those we have to address. You wouldn't want to be blind, but would you surrender one eye for an FPV flight? Funnily enough, you know, that is exactly what we do when we pull down the goggles or step behind the screen. We've got no rearward vision, we've got hugely reduced right and left vision, all we've got is 125 degrees right in front of us as seen through a wide angle lens. And what does that wide angle lens do for us? It robs us of the capacity to judge distance, speed and variations in height. Oh, that's fabulous when you want to fly model airplanes. But fortunately, you can train your eye to read the screen despite the limitations on what it provides. Let's go down the field and I'll show you. And we're lifting off. Notice this is line of sight. Notice the aircraft slipped to the right, proving that there's more pressure of wind on my left shoulder. That's the north. Heading out, still line of sight, heading out to the starting gate. There's my starting gate, white blob in the middle of the picture more or less. And turning right downwind for waypoint 1. It was a mistake to turn downwind. It's made the first leg too fast. However, good turn. We're online now for the starting gate and beyond it, waypoint 2. Got the speed and the height more or less under control, slipping across to the right a little, correcting. Okay, more or less in line now for waypoint 2. When we get to waypoint 2, we level it up, slow down and a yaw turn. Don't use any roll at the upwind end on a day like today. Okay, backwards over the starting gate. Down to 2, we slip to the right, adjusting that. Notice how the grass reveals any tracking errors. That's a pretty good roll turn, little yaw, and up the track we go. Very good height, very good speed. Really nice. Okay, approaching waypoint 2, slowing down, level, and your turn. Excellent, very good. And back we go, over the starting gate, a little bit high, lost some of that height, and we've slipped to the right again. Gentle your turn here, and the beep has started to sound, and this has to be a landing coming up. The landing is very much part of the exercise. So I'm moving gently up on the starting gate point. I want to land as close to the starting gate as I can. Gained much too much height. Oh no, not the perfect demonstration I was. Oh well, it could still be good. Well, not quite like that, Pete. We have an audience, mate. Thank goodness this thing isn't fitted with legs. Is it nearly over? At last. We're at one of my favourite flying sites, and from the absence of ripples on that lake, I think I should be flying. But I need to explain the difference between an upwind turn and a downwind turn. We'll start with the upwind. The wind is coming from you, so I'm now flying into the wind, and I've reached the upwind waypoint. I level the aircraft so that it presents the minimum of drag. It is now hovering, and the instant it's hovering, it's starting to travel downwind. I apply the yaw, and it's now travelling downwind. The object is to keep the drag during that turn minimal. Make the turn as flat as possible, and then you will only be acquiring the wind strength as your ground speed. And now the downwind turn. The wind is blowing the aircraft towards you. You approach the waypoint and you start the turn with adding a little power, adding a little bank. Now the centre of lift from the motors relative to the centre of weight has moved to the left, and it's starting to pull the aircraft round and into the wind. You are turning with authority. You have lost the minimum amount of ground space. This is quite a different flight for me. I've laid down a start and end plate, but I haven't got any waypoints marked on the ground. I'm going to what I might call landmarks. There's a tree more or less centre of frame, you can see it now. The height's pretty good, but watch out for the drift. This is an into wind leg, but the wind isn't straight ahead of us, it's off on the left hand side. For us that's a northeasterly, and you'll see that I tend to sweep off to the right of the target. There, it's sliding now, sliding now. Take control of that. The target is still where it should be. Okay, now we've turned a little bit early, and we got halfway around the turn and stopped and then started again. Now a little bit fast, good height. What waypoint have we in mind here? There's a tree which is slightly left of centre at the moment. He may be lining up for that. Going backwards, going backwards, going backwards. Please keep moving forwards, okay? No, he's aiming for a point to the right of this small tree, which you'll see in a second. There is the small tree. We're now lined up on that and turning round. Not a bad, oh dear, overturned. Did you see he went at least 45 degrees too far around on that turn? Okay, sliding sideways, a little high. Better height. Still sliding sideways. The wind is public enemy number 2 in FPV. Number 1 is the view. Okay, got centre on the tree, a little bit high. Good steady approach. And turning fairly early, that's due to that road. You would always want to stay on an early turn where roads are concerned. Okay, and round we go. That might be almost straight into the wind. A little low, and low again, but didn't touch. Good straight approach there. That was pretty good. Now turning for the start and stop plate. Very low, so low that you can see dirt flicking up through the propellers. That's under 200 millimeters. There he is. He's centered on the tree this time. This is pretty good. Okay, a nice turn, a little too much gain in height. Now going back, no, not quite. Went to hover. Now going backwards. Please don't do that. Forward, forward, forward. Better, better, better. Okay, but where's he going? The problem with these unplanned flights is you tend to wander. Drifting right. Good height. Good speed. And there's the tree dead centre, that's fine. Now what's he going to do in this turn? Okay, a small roll in the turn. Well, there is a bit of breeze up there. Good choice. He's repeated that almost into the wind leg towards that tree. Good height. Nice slow speed. This is excellent. Turning. That looks as if he's lining up for the start-stop plate. Excellent height. Nice and level. Good speed. There's the start-stop plate. Now he's off to that tree again, which is currently slightly right of centre. Nice and straight. Excellent. Very low. And a very gentle turn. It could be we're approaching the end of the battery. I think we are. So now let's see what happens for this creeping up and creeping down. No, going backwards, backwards, backwards. That was horrible. And that was very, very close to the ground. Okay, so we're creeping up on, and then we're going to drop down on the start-stop plate. Looking good. Not so good. Still getting better, getting better. This should be great. And it is. Now, I'm sure some of you are feeling this is really weird. Why are we flying so low? Why are we flying so slow? And why is the course so short? Well, the three factors are interrelated. When you are flying as low as this and as slowly as this, the translational movements are magnified in the screen. It becomes very apparent when you're sliding, when you're going forwards or much worse backwards, and the differences in height are critically revealed. Okay, the short course is slightly different. That's a very simple trick. What I've done is I've increased the number of turns per minute. The turns are really significant. Upwind and downwind turns at these altitudes are not the same at all. And then there's the final factor. There's safety. When you're creeping along and you're only 200 mils in the air, if you for some reason have to cut the throttle, you'll almost certainly get away with it. I haven't broken a propeller yet in 23 days of flying. We're getting very near the end of Birdman Pete's Basics of FPV Flight. I just want to say a few words about judging height. The building behind me, I think you may have seen before, the roof of that building is about 3.5 metres above the ground. But the ground is about 1.5 metres above the playing surface I'm standing on. The fence is about 2 metres high. But the actual height, and I'm going to put up some pictures to give you a few examples of ways in which I've calculated, the actual height isn't the important thing. It's whether you are rising or falling relative to that height that really counts. When the top of a known height object is seen on the horizon, its height equals the viewer's height. So in this case, the top of the known height item is a 6 metre tree. That's where I've put a little red O. So therefore the camera is 6 metres above the ground that tree's growing on. In this picture we have another tree. The red O is on the top of a 5 metre tree. Therefore the height 5 metres. In this case the top of a building appears to be on the horizon. The building is known to be 4 metres above the ground. Therefore I'm saying we're at 4 metres. And in this one, again, the red O is on the top of a 5 metre tree, so I'm saying it's a 5 metre camera position. Now, for those distinguished viewers who think that the theory is total rubbish, that's absolutely great, but I don't give a rat's and don't bother writing. Almost a month, 27 days has passed since my first solo FPV flight, and I've flown every day since. Most of it I've videoed for your benefit, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, and that's an important factor. I was not enjoying my FPV flying a year ago, and I am today. I just want to close with the almost required safety note. You've seen me flying on some pretty small parks, you've seen me flying on some big parks, you have not seen me flying with many people. When you're flying, if there's somebody who feels threatened or uncomfortable by your presence, then you shouldn't really be there. And the only height that really counts is the height of the tree you have to climb to get the thing down from.